Hi there. I'm doing a quick tutorial today on the PSAT script. I know that sometimes these scripts can feel really messy and hard to use. There's also the script that you read before testing starts, and then the script that you read during testing. So I just want to try to clarify some things and kind of do a quick walkthrough so you have an idea of kind of what we're doing as we get there. I have a doc that tells you where all the special page numbers are, and no matter what room you're in, whether you're in a standard room or an accommodation room, here's where the test day script begins. That's on page 67. And pretty much, please just read it word for word. I would also, pay attention to the green bold headings because that kind of tells you what to say when. I do read and skim the areas around because then that gives you important information as well too. Okay, so on the day of, you just start here with the welcome to the PSAT, right? Then it kind of walks over terms and conditions, talks about the different kind of misconduct that's unacceptable while taking the PSAT. This is just something that's a requirement, it's a mandate whenever you're giving these tests. Please don't skip over these chunks, because you're like, hey, we want to get done faster. We do need to read the scripts as they are. As we go down to the next page, they finish that, and then we talk about the personal belongings. I don't want you to battle with students about this. If students are good with it, put it back on a back shelf. Everybody's got their phone there, they got a sticky note on it or something. At least if kids power them off and put them away, uh, I don't want you to get into showdowns about it, okay? Because as you notice, it says if your school collects personal belongings or if your school does not allow collection of personal belongings, this is what you would read, okay? The big thing is if they've got them out during, if a phone rings during the test, I mean, just tell a kid, hey, power your phone off. If it was the SAT, it'd be a much bigger deal, but you can give them a brief warning. The big thing is they're in a section, they're working on the math section, they got their phone out, maybe they're on a browser, but that's really the no-nos, or they're taking pictures of the material with their phones. We can't have that stuff, right? So this is all required script, right, about personal devices, electronic devices, and it's, read this to all students. When you're on this, um, we are allowing you, but like I said, I'm not mandating. So like, you're not gonna call an administrator if a kid refuses to give the phone up, as long as they power it off and put it away. Okay, so don't get panicky about that. Then you read to all students. You read here as we get on to the next page. It talks about don't share, don't exchange information about any of this particular stuff. Okay, and then at this point, you're giving out the answer sheets. Now, um, different than last year, students will have a pre-ID label on their answer sheets. You'll be given a stack of 10 to 15 answer sheets. They'll already have kids' names on them. You'll make sure that those answer sheets go to the correct kids. Now, we did not have a pre-administration session. Now, the ID labels help because a bunch of stuff will already be populated: the student's name, their address, their student number, all kinds of things like that. But there are still things that have to be filled out before they begin the test, right? So at this particular point, we did not have a pre-administration session, so you'll start at B here. Um, and you tell them, hey, you may already have a label on, but there's some other stuff that you're going to have to put in here, and then you will continue to read this particular script, right? This here tells you that if there are kids that don't even have a pre, and we probably won't have a lot of students that don't have a pre-ID label. There may be a small handful, but most of them should. This is what you would read. If everybody has a pre-ID label, then you're not going to read this because they've already got their legal name and all that other stuff in there, right? So you kind of work your way through to where they don't have stuff in there. We should already have the school 6-digit code should be in there. We should be pretty good. Now they should also have this instructions booklet, student, and because it'll ask them, hey, what do you want to be? Well, what kind of college do you want to go to? And there are little charts and tables in there that they will need to use that. So you'll read this part of the script, right? And then you'll tell them, hey, field 5, boom, put this in there. Hey, field 6. So you'll probably have to go through all the rest of these fields. And they might have the grade level in there. Some of that stuff might be good. But like I said, you'll just kind of have to work your way through it. You'll just get through it faster if some of this stuff is already populated in the pre-ID labels. I haven't been at school to see the pre-ID labels, so I can't tell you for sure which fields are already in there. Um, then you get down to here. Then it gets to the distribution of test booklets, right? You start the script here. You start getting the books out there. Now this next part's pretty important too, right? When you get down to here, turn in your test book over, read the back cover. It has important information about the test and how to properly mock your answers. So that's instructions. On the back of the book, clearly print your name. They need to do this. Okay, last year when we did this, I got lots of books turned back in and that this part wasn't done, and those kind of things. So you need to make sure you can put the room number, like if they're in room 134, just have them put the room number on there, whatever it might be. We don't have a flash drive, so we're not going to use that. Give additional instructions for making answers by saying, okay, boom. You got to have them do that. Read these. Don't skip over this. Then you have them complete the certification statement. Okay, that's really important as well. Okay, then completing the test book information. This is really important. For fields A and B on the back of your answer sheet, fill in the form code and test ID on the back of the test format you're testing with. That is your test book reader's script provided to your reader, Braille book, okay. Copy the form code and test ID, which those, you're taking those codes off the test book and putting them on the answer sheet so they match up, right? If you don't do that, there's a chance that these kids' scores might get canceled or they don't get scored, right? So you got to make sure that fields A and B form code on the test booklet and on the answer sheet are filled in correctly. Okay. We're not Saturday testing, so obviously you're not going to read that. And hey, if you've got a test book or you print this out, right, you can cross these out so hey, I'm not reading that. Have students check the codes they've entered by saying, to prevent problems with your scores, just like it says, check the form code and the test ID fields to make sure you can that you entered them correctly. And as a proctor, that's your job. Go around, and you've only got to have like 10 to 15 kids in your room. I know it's a lot harder when you got 30, but with this few, you should be able to go around and check and make sure that is correct. We're not Saturday testing, so you're going to skip that. We're not using room codes, okay? So you don't have to worry about that. We don't have optional codes, okay? Then you do read this. Everybody's ready? Okay, we're going to read a few minutes. Here's a few more things I'm going to read to you. Read that script, okay? And then we don't have specific formats. You're not going to be in a room scribing to kids. We're not using the ATC format. We're not using the Braille format anywhere. So you're gonna come down here and pretty much tell them, any questions about testing procedures, please I'll not be able to answer questions during the test. And then when you're done, okay, you're going to go, if not, it tells you to go on to page 126 for if we've got irregularities. I mean, so really where you're going to head now at this particular point, we're heading to the scripts. Okay. So what we're heading to now is, this is standard time. So for 90% of the rooms, most of you are going to use this standard time script. The scripts get a lot easier once you get into the actual testing part of the test, right? So you just got to make sure that you read it word for word, right? It tells you the time. I've got some other things that'll help you. You'll read that script, right? If you've got this in hard copy, you can put those times in there so you know what you're doing. Hopefully you've got a timer, right? Make sure you read some of the information, in between, because that kind of will give you some helpful heads up about other things that are going on. There's warning times, when you're almost done, okay? Then you got a 5-minute break after that first section. Make sure you read the scripts, make sure you time the break, all that other stuff. And then you go on to each particular section. At this point, I think you're probably pretty good to go, right? You're going to have 4 sections. You got the writing test. That's 35-minute sections. You read your script, right? You got your timing. You got you got 20 minutes left. You got 5 minutes left. That kind of helps kids keep track of time. And then you'll go on to section 3, math no calculator. Make sure kids put their calculators underneath their desks during this particular section. That way they don't accidentally, grab them and pull them out and use them. Read the full script, right? Follow the script. Okay, you got a 5-minute break. Okay, then you got section 4, math test with the calculator. Read all of the script. Okay, use the little timetables. Follow the script and make sure you read those as well. Okay, now script 2, nobody's going to use that. The only other script that we're going to use is going to be script 3. Okay, and those are our 50% extended time rooms, right? So you guys, you start here on page 83, right? The only thing that's going to happen is there might be some more breaks. Okay, so the regular kids, they have 60 minutes for this test. The extended kids have 90, so they do a 45 minutes. The extended kids do and a 5-minute break just to give them a breather, and then they continue the last 45 minutes of this test. That will be baked into the script, right? So whenever you get to that particular point, it'll tell you, here's the break. It'll tell you right in there. So just follow the script to a T and you'll be good to go. And still 4 sections in this one. They're each just 50% longer than all of the others. Okay, so we're only using script 1 if you're in a standard room, or script 3 if you're in an extended time room. Okay, follow that script, right? And then when you get to the end, it'll tell you whether you're in script 1 or you're in script 3, right? It'll tell you proceed to dismissal on page 106. So as soon as you get to the last part, whether you're on script 1 or 3, then you'll cruise to 106, which is the dismissal section. Okay, 106, right here is after the test. Congratulations, you finished the test. Please remain in your seats, right? Before I collect your materials, you give them a few more bits of information. And I think the other important thing here is that you read this stuff. Most important probably is bullet point 1 and 2 here. Inspect the answer sheets. Make sure that they've got all the identifying information. Fields 1 through 8 have to be completed on the front of the answer sheet. On the back of the answer sheet, ensure students have filled in form code, field A, and test ID, field B. If they don't do that, we're going to be in some trouble. Okay, so, and we're not part of the study, so I don't think we have a C, right? Make sure that they filled in any missing identifying information in the fields and erase stray marks, that they've got the correct information, and that they haven't altered any of the fields or messed with anything. Okay, we don't have the MP3. We do have pre-ID labels. Okay, so we're good to go. All right, now just a couple of other things that might be helpful for you. And I've got these page numbers for you, and you'll stop right there after you collect the textbook, the test books, because down here we're not in the ATC format. We're not doing anything else like that. So once you've read dismissal on page 106, we're good to go. Okay, but during the test, some things that may be helpful, right? You'll want to make sure that you collect everything, that you're going to get it back to, if I'm there, you'll come back to the guidance department, bring it to me. If not, it'll be Amy Porteous, right? That you have every test book that was given to you. You have every answer sheet that was given to you, whether they're blank or whether they're filled out with a pre-ID label. If you've got an answer sheet with a pre-ID label and that kid didn't show up, you will still turn that back in to Mrs. Porteous or myself. Okay, and they've got a checklist here, some things that you can kind of do to make sure that you're good to go. So here is a basic chart, and I gave you the page number for this. So most of you are giving standard time. So you'd look here, standard time, 60 minutes, 5-minute break. So this just kind of gives you kind of an overview of the total time of the test, 2 hours and 45 minutes, right? We're script 3, right? We do script 1, which should take 2 hours and 45 minutes. Script 3 could take up to 4 hours and 9 minutes, 4 hours and 34 minutes, right? Okay, that's with the breaks. Okay, so you'd only need those 2 there. Also, this is a nice chart. So like if you start at 8:13 for section 1, right, then you're gonna stop at 9:13. If you start at 8:19 for section 2, you're going to end at, it's a 35-minute. And so that kind of helps you figure out and calculate the stop and start times. So this charts I always feel like is pretty helpful. Okay, here's the one for script 3, right? So that was all of you who are given script 1, that's standard time. And then anybody in an accommodated room would use this one with the 50% extended time. It's really important that you don't undertime or overtime. So make sure that you've got those right, because that could get kids' scores canceled. Okay. Couple of other things, acceptable calculators. I don't feel like you have to use this very often. The PHS math department and WSOI math departments all use approved calculators. They're those yellow calculators, or they might be black. Those are all approved. If somebody has one that looks kind of different, right, just look at the brand, Casio, and then look at the series number. Or if it's, most of the time you're going to probably see Casio or Texas Instruments. Okay. But if you see one that just kind of some crazy orange calculator floating around somewhere, and there is a part of the script that says, I'm going to come around and check and approve your calculators, right? It's these are the ones that we're talking about. Now, if a kid just has a crappy 4-function calculator and they're like, I'm just using this, that's obviously an accepted calculator as well. Okay. So there's the acceptable calculators. So on page 117, that is in a doc I'll give you. You don't need to worry about that. You do have a seating chart, which is at the very end. So if you've got a hardback copy, you'll fill this in, put your name, school name, testing room code, which would probably just be the room number, the school code, which is 15660. That's on a document I've given you. It should be on their pre-ID labels as well. You're going to have a single seating chart, right? Section 1 of, you've only got one testing room. So, so then you'll put your name and information in there, right? And then you'll put where your students are sitting down in here. Okay, it's pretty basic. There's an example of what it might look like. Okay. So the only other thing that you might think about, which I gave you, I kind of did an abbreviated list. All this here in the back of your coordinator manual is different irregularities. Okay, and I covered some of those. You think a kid is cheating, a kid is being disruptive in the classroom. Maybe a kid does the wrong section of the test. You finish section 1 and you're in section 2, but you walk by and you see the kid back in section 1 changing answers. That's a big deal. Those are things that we want to be careful of. What this says is to warn students and tell them they're not supposed to do it. But if you catch them doing it again, then you dismiss them, collect their materials. Now, if it was the SAT, you'd get dismissed automatically. So I think they're a little bit more lax on that. So you don't have to look through and know all of these, but I took a couple of them. And in the document that I gave you, I kind of listed, the 8 or 9. We haven't had too many of these. I've had kids say, I'm not doing this test, refuse to do it. I've had some kids that we've had to remove from a room for being disruptive, but I've never had any cheating. The other big ones might be mistiming. If you undertime or overtime, you'll need to make sure that you do what you're supposed to do for that. And I gave you some page numbers to mess around with. The key, if you have any irregularities, you're going to contact me if I'm there in the building on the 14th, or Amy Porteous, so we can fill out an irregularity report and let them know how that might impact testing. Okay, whether it's just one kid that's impacted or whether it's the whole room of kids, that would probably be the last thing you need to know, right? So hopefully you're good on the scripts. The best thing to do is to make sure that you please just look at the script before the day of, because that can, it seems like it's pretty easy, but once you get in them, if you haven't looked at them and you're looking at them for the first time on the day of, it can get kind of stressful, and you're like, hey, which section do I read? So I tried to just do the quick run through with you right here. Hopefully that should be helpful. If you've got any questions, let me know.